Welcome to Lakehouse 2.0.
So today we're going to talk about where we left off today is the concept of one copy. So first things first, in Fabric OneLake we have this concept of one copy, meaning what?
I'm glad you asked. So one copy is the main mantra of OneLake and Microsoft Fabric in general. This means you store the data once and you can consume it using multiple different experiences or workloads in Microsoft Fabric. That's the idea behind one copy. So you don't need to move data here and there horizontally, vertically between different departments or different storage systems inside the organization. Data is stored securely in one place, and then from that single location, all workloads can process this data.
This is amazing, but I want to kind of double down on this, right? We need to store it one time first, right? So essentially we need to have a copy of the data with the exception of shortcuts. So we'll come back to shortcuts, but let's kind of talk about that a little bit more. So if I have the data in Lakehouse, I could use it into a different Lakehouse, you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. So once the data is in Fabric, so just to be clear, if you have your data stored in, let's say, SQL Server, you need to bring it physically into Microsoft Fabric. So once you create, as you said, this single copy inside Fabric, from that moment you can use it as you like, as you need. This means, yes, to answer your question, yes, you can use this data from another Lakehouse. You can write T-SQL queries, you can write PySpark queries, you can create semantic models for Power BI reports on top of this data.
And that's the beauty of the Delta Parquet we just talked about earlier.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we touched on something very close to people's hearts, SQL Server on-prem.
Yeah.
So just to kind of stick on that side before we get into shortcuts, this concept of mirroring.
Yeah.
So this allows us to bring data real time, near real time. Well, what does it do?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So mirroring essentially allows us to create a near real-time replica of the data inside Microsoft Fabric. Going back to your example, let's say you are running a SQL Server on-prem, so you can configure mirroring from Microsoft Fabric. Everything will be configured and set up automatically for you, and this mirroring process essentially reads the data from the transaction log of your SQL Server database and adjusts this or puts this data in near real time. It's up to 2 minutes latency inside Microsoft Fabric. So you have this data immediately available because on the fly it's translated to Delta Parquet. So that means all the good things we can do with Delta Parquet, semantic models, shortcuts, and everything else can be done from a mirror database.
So this sounds awfully like CDC, the change data capture that we used to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for. It's baked in free in Microsoft now?
Yeah, and that's exactly change data capture. It works based on this mechanism. So based on change data capture mechanism enabled on SQL Server side, this data will be essentially available in near real time inside Microsoft Fabric. So and one more thing in terms of storage compared to other workloads in Fabric. For mirror databases, you don't pay for storage, or let's say you have a freemium model up to number of terabytes that equals your number of capacity units within your Fabric license. It will give you this number of terabytes of storage, meaning F2, you get 2 terabytes of data stored for free in the mirror database, F4, 4 terabytes, and so on.
And this is terabytes of Delta Parquet, which we didn't talk about in last video, which has 5 to 15x compression versus standard storage.
Exactly.
So that is pretty cool. So now apart from, we know that it already works on Azure SQL databases, on-prem SQL servers in public preview, which is obviously a big deal. But we have other sources like Snowflake and whatnot where we can do mirror. But tell me about this thing called shortcut.
That's one of my top 3 features in the entire Fabric platform. So shortcuts may look similar to mirroring because, again, you are creating a real-time replica of the data, but this time this replica is just virtualized. It's not physical replica. So with shortcuts, you essentially do what you do with shortcuts in your Windows File Explorer. You just create a pointer to the file or folder that is stored somewhere else. You do exactly the same thing with shortcuts in Fabric. So your data might be stored in, for example, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 or Google Cloud Platform.
So you're saying that you don't have to be just in Microsoft. You could shortcut data from Azure, AWS, Google.
Dataverse, yeah. So data physically stays where it is, and you just create a pointer which creates a virtual copy of the data. And since the data is now available from inside the Fabric, we are going back to our previous point, Delta Parquet. If your shortcut is created to a Delta table stored somewhere else, you can mix and match this data with all your Fabric workloads.
Awesome. I think that allows us to not even host a fixed physical copy to be able to leverage Delta Parquet stored outside. And if I'm not wrong, we can actually, if things are not in Delta Parquet, we can actually shortcut folders and other locations that we can process on demand in Fabric.
Yes. So we can shortcut, as you said, we can shortcut files and folders. And there is also the new feature called shortcut with transformations, where you can basically create a shortcut to a file, and then during the definition of the shortcut itself, you can determine if you want this file to be immediately transformed and stored as a Delta table in Microsoft Fabric.
So essentially, this is your automatically, if the data is in CSV, which we can shortcut as table, but essentially we can do shortcut on transform and read that as Delta Parquet.
Exactly.
So it boggles my mind. Is this here?
Mine as well. Yeah.
So, but that's the beauty of Fabric, meaning like wherever your data is, it's the least amount of effort to bring it together. And because in the era of AI, the more the context, the better the answer.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And that's why we say that all roads lead to OneLake in the end. One way or the other, you can access all the data through the OneLake. So yeah.
So I think of all the features that Microsoft Fabric has, I think the workload that probably works like a charm, the best one probably is the foundation on which is OneLake. And there's one feature we're gonna finish the Lakehouse 2.0 videos on is OneLake security. So the last one, wait for OneLake security.